Jake Miller looked at the screen in his hands. The words made him angry, but he tried not to show it. After 3 years of being captain of the human ship USS Defiance, he and his crew were being moved. They would now work on a big alien ship called Starbound Unity. The message said they were emergency backup crew. Jake hated those words. Backup meant they were not important. Backup meant the aliens thought humans were not good enough for real work. Amy Parker walked into the room. She was the person who handled all the radio calls for their ship. She saw Jake's face and knew something was wrong. Bad news? She asked. Jake showed her the screen. Amy read it and made a face like she had eaten something bad. Well, she said, trying to smile, at least we will see real space fights up close. But Jake could see she was not really happy about it either. The rest of his crew came in one by one. Ryan Collins was their pilot. He could fly anything with engines. Lisa Brooks was their engineer. She could fix any machine that broke. Dr. Sam Torres was their doctor. He took care of everyone when they got hurt. Kevin Hayes was their weapons expert. He knew how to fight and shoot. They were all good at their jobs. But the aliens did not think so. 2 days later, they moved their things to the Starbound Unity. The ship was huge. It was 10 times bigger than any human ship. It had shiny metal walls and lights that changed colors. Everything looked very advanced. An expensive. The aliens on the ship made it clear they did not want humans there. The Zephyrians looked like walking crystals. They were see-through and sparkled in the light. They thought humans were stupid and violent. They would not even talk to Jake's crew. Instead, they made clicking sounds that meant, go away, in their language. The ethereals were even worse. They were like gas clouds that floated in special suits. They talked through machines that made their voices sound cold and empty. One of them told Amy that human brains were too small for complex thinking. The Verdani looked like walking trees. They had green skin and moved very slowly. They were usually nice to everyone, but even they seemed to think humans were a waste of space. The worst was Commander Vextal. He was a saurian, which meant he looked like a big lizard that walked on 2 legs. He had sharp teeth and yellow eyes. He was the second most important person on the ship, right after the captain. During their first meeting, Vextal made his feelings very clear. I do not understand why humans are here, he said. His voice was like a snake hissing. Your people have done nothing important for the war. You cannot think as fast as Zephyrians. You cannot move through space like ethereals. You cannot grow and change like Verdani. What can you do? Jake wanted to punch the lizard man in his ugly face, but he knew that would only prove that humans were violent and stupid. So he stayed quiet. We can learn, Jake said finally. We can help where we are needed. Vextal laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Help, he said. The only help we need from humans is to stay out of the way. After the meeting, Jake and his crew were given their jobs. They were not good jobs. Amy had to clean the communication equipment. Ryan had to check the engines for problems. Lisa had to carry tools for the real engineers. Sam had to organize medical supplies. Kevin had to watch the weapons, but not touch them. They were treated like servants, not like space crew. The ship was full of amazing things. The weapons could blow up whole planets. The shields could stop any attack. The engines could make the ship disappear and reappear somewhere else. Everything was controlled by computers that were smarter than any human. But Jake noticed something. All the aliens were very specialized. The Zephyrians could only do thinking work. The ethereals could only do flying work. The Verdani could only do growing and fixing work. Each group was very good at one thing, but they could not do anything else. Humans were different. They were not the best at anything, But they could do a little bit of everything. Jake started learning about the ship's systems. He studied the weapons, the engines, the shields, and the communication equipment. His crew did the same thing. When they were not doing their boring jobs, they were learning. The aliens thought this was funny. Why would backup crew need to know how the ship worked? Humans are so curious, one Zephyrian said to another. They want to understand everything, even things that are too hard for them. But Jake kept learning. He had a feeling that one day, all this knowledge would be important. The Starborn Unity was heading to a place called the Kepler system. This was where the enemy had built a big base. The enemy was called the Vex Collective. They were machines that could think. They had been taking over planets and turning everything into more machines. The Galactic Coalition had been fighting the Vex for 2 years. So far, they were losing. This will be the big battle, Captain Zorian told everyone. He was a Zephyrian and the leader of the ship. His crystal body glowed bright blue when he was excited. We have 47 ships. We have the best weapons. We have the smartest minds in the galaxy. The Vex will not win this time. All the aliens cheered. They believed they were going to win easily. Jake and his crew did not cheer. They had read the reports about other battles with the Vex. The machines were very good at learning. Every time the Coalition tried something, the Vex figured out how to stop it. But the aliens did not want to hear human opinions. Humans were just backup. They would only be needed if something went very, very wrong. Jake hoped nothing would go wrong. But deep down, he was getting ready for the worst. The battle started early in the morning, ship time. Jake woke up to red lights flashing and loud alarms ringing. All around the ship, aliens were running to their stations. Through the big windows, Jake could see space filled with ships. 47 Coalition vessels moved toward a huge metal structure orbiting a planet. The Vex fortress looked like a giant spider made of steel and glass. It was bigger than a city. Amy found Jake in the hallway. They told all backup crew to stay in the safe rooms, she said. But I want to see what happens. Jake nodded. Me too. Let's go to the backup command center. The backup command center was a small room with screens that showed what was happening in the main bridge. Jake and his crew could see everything, but they could not do anything. At first, the battle looked like it was going well for the Coalition. The Zephyrian officers were very smart. They could think faster than any computer. They found weak spots in the Vex defenses and told the weapons where to shoot. Every shot hit exactly where it was supposed to. The ethereal navigators were amazing to watch. They could make the ship phase through solid matter. When Vex weapons fired at them, the ship would become like smoke. The attacks would pass right through without doing any damage. The Verdani defensive specialists worked like magic. They could feel the ship's energy like it was their own body. When the shields got weak in one place, they would move power from somewhere else. The ship stayed protected no matter what the Vex threw at it. For 30 minutes, it looked like Captain Zorian was right. The Coalition was winning easily. Then everything changed. The Vex had been watching and learning. Their computers were studying every move the aliens made. Slowly, they began to fight back in ways no one expected. The first sign of trouble came from the weapons station. Kevin was watching the Zephyrian officer when something strange happened. The alien's crystal body started to crack. What's wrong with him? Kevin asked. Dr. Sam looked at the screen. I think the Vex are attacking his mind directly. The Zephyrian officer screamed. It sounded like glass breaking. His crystal body shattered into 1,000 pieces. Other Zephyrians around the ship started screaming too. Their clear, perfect thinking was being turned against them. Next, the ethereal navigators started having problems. The Vex had built special traps in space. When the ethereals tried to phase through an attack, they got caught in invisible nets. Their gas bodies were pulled apart and could not come back together, The Verdani had it worst of all. The Vex started pumping poison into the thing. Ship's air system. The poison was designed to kill plant-based life forms. The tree-like aliens began to turn brown and fall over. Hull damage on levels 7 through 12, Amy shouted. She had run to the communication station when the regular officer collapsed. Main weapons are broken. The big guns are not working. Jake watched the main screen. Commander Vextal was trying to control everything by himself. The proud lizard man was good at his job, but he had always depended on the other aliens to help him. Now they were gone or dying. The ship shook as more Vex weapons hit it. Lights went out. The artificial gravity stopped working in some areas. People and things began floating in the air. "We're losing," Ryan said. He was looking at the pilot controls. The ship is flying in circles. No one knows how to steer it properly. On the main screen, Jake could see other coalition ships having the same problems. The Vex had found a way to attack each alien species' biggest strengths. The things that made them special were now making them weak. "Captain Miller," Commander Vextal's voice came through the speakers. For the first time, the lizard man sounded scared. "Bring you people to the main bridge. We need you to take over the primary stations." Jake looked at his crew. Amy was already working at the communication station. She was pressing buttons and pulling switches, trying to figure out how the alien technology worked. "Are you sure about this?" Lisa asked. "We don't know how to use their equipment." "We have to try," Jake said. "If we don't, everyone on this ship is going to die." They ran through the hallways toward the main bridge. Emergency lights made everything look red and scary. Smoke was coming from broken machines. They could hear aliens crying for help in languages they did not understand. When they reached the bridge, it looked like a disaster had happened. Most of the alien officers were gone. Some had been killed by the Vex attacks. Others were too hurt to work. The few who were left did not know what to do. Captain Zorian was still alive, but his crystal body was cracked and dim. He could barely speak. Take the stations," he whispered to Jake. Save the ship." Jake looked around the bridge. Every station was designed for a different type of alien. The Zephyrian command chair was too sharp and angular for humans. The ethereal flight controls were made for beings who could touch gas. The Verdani engineering station responded to plant chemicals that humans did not have, but they had to try. "Amy, take communications. Try to talk to the other ships. Ryan, get to the pilot station and figure out how to fly this thing. Lisa, go to engineering and see if you can fix the weapons. Sam, coordinate the damage control teams. Kevin, take weapons control." His crew ran to their new stations. None of them had been trained for this. They were just backup crew. But backup was all that was left. "Jake," Vextal said, crawling over to him. The lizard man was bleeding green blood from a cut on his head. "The ship's computer systems are too complex for humans. You will never figure them out in time." Jake sat down in the command chair. It was uncomfortable and made for someone with a very different body shape. But it would have to do. "Maybe," Jake said. "But we're going to try anyway." On the screen, he could see more coalition ships exploding. The Vex fortress was getting stronger, not weaker. It was learning from every attack and building new defenses. The battle was almost lost. The aliens had failed. Now it was up to the humans to either save everyone or die trying. Jake pressed a button and spoke to his crew. "Okay, everyone. We've never done this before. We don't know what we're doing, but that might be exactly what we need right now." Jake took a deep breath and started giving orders to his crew. Everything was falling apart around them, but he tried to sound calm and confident. "Amy, I need you to talk to all the ships in our fleet. Tell them we're taking control. Ryan, forget about the automatic flying systems. Fly this ship like you would fly anything else. Lisa, go down to the engine room. I don't care if you don't understand how it works. Figure it out. Sam, get teams together to fix the damage. Kevin, the weapons are yours now. His crew looked scared, but they nodded and got to work. Ryan sat down at the pilot station. The controls were designed for ethereal beings who could float and touch many buttons at the same time. Ryan could not float, and he only had 2 hands. But he had been flying things since he was a kid. He ignored all the fancy computer systems and started looking for the basic controls. Every flying machine needed the same things: a way to go forward, a way to turn, and a way to stop. It took him a few minutes, but he found them. Okay, Ryan said to himself. Let's see what this big thing can do. He pushed the controls forward. The starborn Unity lurched ahead like a drunk elephant. It was not smooth or graceful, but it was moving. Down in the engine room, Lisa was staring at the most complicated machine she had ever seen. The Singularity core was like a tiny black hole held in place by magnetic fields. It created more power than 100 Earth cities used in a year. The Verdani engineers who normally worked here were all sick or dead from the poison. Their plant-based technology was growing wild without anyone to control it. Vines and roots were wrapping around important equipment. Lisa did not understand how any of it worked, but she understood that power was power. She started following the energy cables to see where they went. When she found a blocked path, she cleared it. When she found a broken connection, she fixed it. Jake, she called over the radio, I can give you more power to the weapons, but it's going to be dangerous. These safety systems are here for a reason. How dangerous? Jake asked. The kind of dangerous where the ship might blow up. Jake looked at the main screen. 3 more coalition ships had just been destroyed. They were losing badly. Do it, he said. Lisa started shutting off safety systems that the aliens had built to prevent accidents. She rerouted power through backup cables that were never meant to carry so much energy. Sparks flew from control panels as electricity flowed where it was not supposed to go. But it worked. The weapons came back online. Kevin was having his own problems at the weapons station. The Zephyrian targeting system was incredibly complex. It could calculate the exact path of every shot, taking into account gravity, space debris, and enemy movement. But it was also incredibly slow. Kevin had learned to shoot in the human military. His training was much simpler. Point at the bad guy and pull the trigger. He turned off the targeting computer and started aiming by hand. The first few shots missed completely, but Kevin kept trying. He started to get a feel for how the weapons worked. Pretty soon, he was hitting targets that the computer system had said were impossible to hit. Amy was trying to coordinate with the other ships in the fleet. The problem was that every alien species used different communication methods. The Zephyrians sent mathematical formulas. The Ethereals transmitted emotional frequencies. The Verdani used chemical signals. Amy did not understand any of these methods. So she did what humans did best. She simplified everything. All ships, this is Starborn. Unity, she broadcast on every frequency she could find. Follow us. Shoot what we shoot. Don't think too much about it. It was not fancy, but it was clear. The other ship captains were confused at first, but they were also desperate. They started following the Starborn Unity's lead. Dr. Sam was running around the ship with repair teams. He had never been trained for this kind of work, but he knew how to organize people in a crisis. He sent teams to fix the most important things first: life support, communications, and weapons. The alien crew members, who were still alive, did not understand Sam's simple approach. They wanted to fix everything perfectly, the right way. Sam Just wanted to fix things enough to keep working. Don't worry about making it perfect, he told a Saurian engineer. Just make it work for the next hour. Slowly, the ship started to come together. The humans were not doing things the right way, or the smart way. They were doing things the fast way and the simple way. Ryan was flying the ship in patterns that made no sense to anyone watching. He would suddenly dive down and spin sideways and shoot forward at full speed. The Vex targeting computers could not predict what he would do next because Ryan did not know what he would do next either. Lisa had turned the engine room into a controlled disaster. Power was flowing through systems in ways that would make any engineer cry, but it was working. The ship had more power than it was supposed to have. Kevin was shooting weapons in directions that seemed random, but he was not being random. He was shooting where he thought the enemies would go, not where they were now. His human instincts were faster than any computer. Amy was keeping all the ships working together by shouting simple instructions that everyone could understand. Turn left, shoot now, move fast. The Vex were getting confused. They had spent months learning how to fight the aliens, but the humans were doing everything wrong. The Vex computers tried to analyze the human tactics, but there were no tactics to analyze. The humans were just making it up as they went along. Jake, Commander Vextal said. The lizard man was watching everything with amazement. Your people have no training for this. What you are doing should not work. Maybe that's why it is working, Jake replied. On the main screen, he could see that the battle was starting to change. The starborn unity was moving in ways the Vex could not predict. Other coalition ships were copying their movements. For the first time in the battle, the Vex were the ones who looked confused, but the fight was far from over. The Vex fortress was still there, still dangerous. And Jake could see that it was starting to adapt to the human way of fighting too. Everyone, Jake called to his crew, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. But be ready to change everything at any moment. Because if there was one thing humans were good at, it was changing their minds when they needed to. Jake pressed the button that would let him talk to all the ships in the coalition fleet. He could see them on his screen, 31 ships left out of the original 47. They were scattered and confused, but they were still fighting. All ships, this is Starborn Unity, Jake said into the microphone. We're taking charge of this battle. Follow our lead and forget everything you learned in military school. There was silence on the radio for a few seconds. Then voices started coming through in a dozen different alien languages. Most of them sounded confused or angry. Commander Vextal, who was still bleeding on the floor beside Jake's chair, tried to sit up. Captain Miller, he said, you cannot give orders to the fleet. These are experienced alien captains with hundreds of years of training. And how's that training working out for them? Jake asked, pointing at the screen where another coalition ship was exploding. Amy's voice came through the speakers. Jake, I'm getting responses from the other ships. Some of them want to know what your plan is. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Vex fortress was in the center, surrounded by smaller enemy ships. The coalition forces were spread out around them in what used to be a careful formation. Now it was just a mess. Tell them the plan is to stop being predictable, Jake said. Every time we do something logical, the Vex figure out how to counter it. So we're going to do illogical things. The first ship to follow Jake's lead was commanded by a Saurian captain named Kexvar. His vessel, the Iron Claw, suddenly broke formation and charged straight at the Vex fortress. It was exactly the kind of reckless move that military doctrine said never to do, but it worked. The Vex had calculated that no ship would make such a dangerous attack. Their defensive systems were not ready for it. The Iron Claw smashed through 3 enemy fighters before they could react. Ryan saw what the Saurian captain was doing and smiled. Now that's my kind of flying, he said. He pushed the starborn Unity into an even crazier maneuver, using the ship's massive bulk like a wrecking ball. The ethereal ship Void Dancer started copying the human tactics too. Instead of phasing through attacks in predictable patterns, they began appearing and disappearing randomly. Sometimes they would phase when there was no danger at all, just to confuse the enemy. A Verdani ship called Living Forest began growing. New armor sections in the middle of battle. The plant-like aliens started changing their ship shape constantly, making it impossible for Vex weapons to get a target lock. Amy was working frantically at her communication station, trying to coordinate between species that normally needed hours to exchange complex tactical information. "This is crazy," she muttered to herself as she translated a Zephyrian mathematical formula into simple Saurian battle speech. But somehow it was working. Lisa's voice came over the radio from the engine room. "Jake, I've got the power systems doing things they were never designed to do. We've got about 10 minutes before something important explodes. Can you give me 15 minutes? Jake asked. "I can give you 12 minutes, and that's if we're really lucky." Kevin was having the time of his life at the weapons station. He had figured out how to link the quantum torpedoes with the ship's artificial gravity system. Every time he fired, the torpedoes would appear to miss their targets completely, then suddenly curve around and hit from behind. "The Vex computers can't figure out where my shots are going to go," Kevin reported. "I don't think even I know where they're going to go." Dr. Sam had organized repair teams throughout the ship, but instead of just fixing damage, he had them making random modifications to systems. A team of Saurian engineers was installing backup armor in places where it served no tactical purpose. A group of surviving Verdani was growing emergency life support systems that might never be needed. "Why are we doing this?" one of the Saurians asked Sam. "Because if we don't know why we're doing it, the enemy won't know either," Sam replied. Vex Fortress was starting to show signs of confusion. Its massive weapons were firing at empty space where Coalition ships used to be. Its defensive systems were trying to protect against attacks that never came. Jake watched the tactical display and realized something important. The Vex were not just machines. They were smart machines that learned from experience. But all their learning was based on fighting logical enemies who followed predictable patterns. "Amy," Jake called, "send a message to all ships. Tell them to start doing their specialties, but do them wrong on purpose." "Do them wrong?" Amy asked. "Tell the Zephyrians to make mistakes in their calculations. Tell the Ethereals to phase at the wrong times. Tell the Verdani to grow things that don't make sense. Tell the Saurians to use their weapons for defense and their shields for attack." It was the strangest military order ever given in galactic history. But the alien captains were desperate enough to try it. Captain Zordine of the Zephyrian ship. Crystal Mind started ordering his crew to input wrong numbers into their targeting computers. The result was weapons fire that curved and twisted in impossible directions, hitting enemies from angles that mathematics said were impossible. The ethereal captain of Mistwalker began phasing her ship into solid asteroids on purpose, then phasing back out with chunks of rock embedded in her hull. She used the asteroids as improvised weapons, dropping them on enemy ships. Captain Veliner of the Verdani ship Root Deep started growing useless decorative plants all over his ship's exterior. The Vex targeting systems could not figure out which parts of the ship were important and which parts were just pretty flowers. The battle began to turn. For the first time since the fighting started, the Vex were losing ships faster than the Coalition was. But Jake knew it would not last long. The Vex were already starting to adapt to chaos. Their learning computers were finding patterns even in the randomness. "Jake," Vextel said. The lizard commander had managed to pull himself up to a standing position. "What you have done is impossible. You have taken our greatest strengths and turn them into something the enemy cannot understand. "We haven't won yet," Jake replied, looking at the fortress on the screen. "That thing is still operational, and it's learning fast." As if responding to his words, the Vex fortress began to change. Its outer sections started rearranging themselves into a new configuration. Energy readings spiked beyond anything the Coalition sensors had ever measured. "All ships," Jake broadcasted. "Whatever that thing is doing, we need to stop it now. Everyone attack the fortress core. Use everything you've got." The remaining Coalition ships charged toward the massive enemy station. But Jake could see on his instruments that the fortress was preparing something that would destroy them all. They had maybe 3 minutes before the Vex unleashed their ultimate weapon. It was time for the humans to get really creative. The Vex fortress was changing before their eyes. Its metal sections moved like puzzle pieces, clicking together into a shape that no one in the Coalition had ever seen before. The whole structure began to glow with a light that hurt to look at. "Jake," Kevin called from the weapons station, "I'm reading massive energy buildup from that thing. Whatever it's building, it's going to be really, really bad." Amy was listening to radio chatter from the other ships. "The fleet captains are asking for orders," she reported. "They want to know if they should retreat." Jake stared at the screen. The fortress was almost finished transforming. He could see weapon ports opening up all along its surface. This was not just another gun. This was something designed to wipe out entire fleets. "All ships, pull back to a safe distance," Jake ordered. "Stay clear of that fortress." But as the Coalition ships moved away, the fortress fired its first shot. A beam of pure energy reached out and touched one of the retreating cruisers. The ship simply stopped existing. No explosion, no debris. It was just gone. "Analysis complete." A cold mechanical voice came through the radio. It was the Vex Fortress computer speaking directly to them. Zephyrian tactical patterns identified and countered. Ethereal phase capabilities mapped and neutralized. Verdani biological systems cataloged and defeated. Saurian defensive strategies predicted and overcome. The fortress's weapon began scanning the rest of the fleet. Jake realized what was happening. The super weapon was not just destroying ships, it was studying them. Every move the Coalition made, every defensive measure they tried, was being analyzed and turned against them. "It's learning everything we do," Jake said. "Every time we use a tactic, it builds a counter for it." Commander Vextal pulled himself up to look at the tactical display. "Then we are lost," he said. "There is no strategy that can defeat an enemy that adapts to everything." Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was still at their stations, still trying to figure out alien technology that was never meant for human hands. Amy was translating communications between species that could barely understand each other. Ryan was flying a ship too big for any one person to control. Lisa was keeping the engines running through pure stubbornness. Sam was coordinating repairs with tools he had never seen before. Kevin was aiming weapons that worked on principles he did not understand. They were all doing things they had never been trained for, making it up as they went along, and somehow it was working. "Actually," Jake said slowly, "I think I have an idea. But it's really, really stupid." "Stupid enough that the Vex won't see it coming?" Amy asked. "Stupid enough that even we won't know what we're doing." Jake pressed the button to talk to his crew. "Lisa, I need you to make the engines do something completely random. Not just unpredictable. Actually random. Make the power levels change for no reason at all." "That could destroy the ship," Lisa replied from the engine room. "Perfect. Ryan, when Lisa starts the random power fluctuations, I want you to fly like you're having a nervous breakdown. Don't think about where you're going. Just move." "Jake," Dr. Sam called, "are you feeling okay? This plan sounds insane." "That's exactly what I'm going for." Amy, start broadcasting everything you can think of. Earth music, poetry, shopping lists. Anything that has nothing to do with space combat. Kevin, fire the weapons at empty space. Shoot at stars, asteroids, anything except the enemy. Commander Vextol stared at Jake like he had lost his mind. Captain Miller, this strategy has no logical foundation. It serves no tactical purpose. That's the point, Jake said. The Vex can counter logic. They can predict tactics. They can analyze any reasonable strategy and build a defense against it. But they can't counter pure random madness. Jake turned to address the whole fleet. All ships, listen carefully. I want everyone to start doing the most pointless things you can think of. Fire your weapons at nothing. Fly in circles. Broadcast random noise. Make your ships as chaotic and unpredictable as possible. The radio exploded with confused voices. Alien captains demanded explanations. Military advisors called Jake insane. But some ships started following his orders. The Saurian ship Iron Claw began doing barrel rolls while firing all its weapons at empty space. The ethereal ship Void Dancer started phasing in and out of reality for no reason at all. The Verdani ship Root Deep began growing flowers on its weapon systems. Lisa engaged her modifications to the Starborn Unity's power systems. Energy levels started jumping up and down randomly. Lights flickered on and off throughout the ship. The artificial gravity kept changing direction. Ryan took the controls and began flying the ship like he was drunk. The massive vessel spun, twisted, and lurched through space in patterns that made no sense to anyone watching. Amy opened every communication channel and started broadcasting the most random things she could think of. She played Earth music read, poetry, and even sang some songs her grandmother had taught her when she was little. Kevin pointed the weapons at empty space and started firing. Quantum torpedoes exploded harmlessly against asteroids. Energy beams lit up the darkness between stars. To any observer, it looked like the humans had gone completely crazy. The Vex Fortress turned its analysis beam toward the Starborn Unity. For several seconds, the Super Weapon tried to make sense of what the humans were doing. Its computers worked frantically to find patterns in the chaos, but there were no patterns to find. The humans were not following any strategy at all. They were just doing random things for no reason. The Fortress computer's voice came through. The radio again, but this time it sounded confused. Analysis ... incomplete. Human behavior patterns ... do not compute. Unable to predict, unable to counter ... Now, Jake shouted. All ships, attack the fortress core. Hit it with everything you've got. The coalition fleet stopped their chaotic behavior and charged toward the Vex Fortress. But they did not charge in formation or follow any battle plan. Each ship attacked from a different angle, using different weapons at different times. The Fortress Super Weapon tried to defend itself, but its targeting systems were still confused by the random behavior they had just witnessed. The weapon fired wildly, missing most of its targets. The combined attack from 31 desperate ships hit the fortress core at the same moment. The Vex stronghold, which had seemed invincible just minutes before, cracked like an egg. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface as critical systems failed. The core is going critical, Kevin reported. It's going to explode. The fortress computer made one last transmission. Error ... error. Cannot adapt to. Randomness ... Then, the entire structure vanished in a ball of light that was visible from 3 star systems away. When the explosion faded, the remaining Vex ships retreated in confusion. Their ultimate weapon was gone, destroyed by an enemy that made no sense to their logical minds. Jake slumped back in his command chair. Around him, his crew was cheering and hugging each other. On the radio, Alien captains were demanding to know how the humans had known that strategy would work. Commander Vextal approached Jake's chair. The proud lizard warrior looked at the human captain with something that might have been respect. "Captain Miller," he said slowly, "your species may not be the smartest or the strongest in the galaxy. But today you reminded us that sometimes the best solution is to have no solution at all." Jake looked out at the debris field where the fortress had been. "We weren't backup," he said quietly. "We were the weapon nobody knew they needed, not even us." 3 months later, human crews served on every major coalition warship. They were not backup anymore. They were specialists in the one thing no computer could predict or counter: being completely, brilliantly, effectively human. Got the war against the Vex Collective continued, but now the mechanical enemy faced something they could never fully understand. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their training. It was their ability to be wonderfully, chaotically, unpredictably human.